Hello, everybody. Good to see you today. Thanks for joining the neighborhood.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in this beauty wood, a neighborly day for a beauty. Would you be mine?
It's a beautiful day today, Corey. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It's great to see you, Michael. It's great to
Good to see you too, Corey. Good to see you, Dave.
Welcome.
Great to see you guys.
Yeah, great to
Great
see
to
you.
be here.
Got a little fire going, put my sweater on, a little chill in the air. You know, really happy that everybody could join us today in our neighborhood. Really happy to see y'all. Thanks for joining. There it is right there.
There it is.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that lovely opportunity for us all to come to this place and time today.
Because that's what they expected with Tales from the Crypt.
Mm-hmm. That's what I would expect.
You know?
So, how's everybody doing today? Good, I hope. Oh man, somebody said something about me being Mr. Rogers, and I'm not sure if it was good or bad, but I'm going to ignore it for the moment. I don't know how to take these comments that are rolling in here right now. Let's see.
Worst Mr. Rogers ever. There it is.
And then been working on the Bob Ross voice. You know, it's just a bunch of happy little mistakes. That's all we're dealing with right now. Happy little mistakes there, Chris.
Is that a dumpster fire?
No, Darren,
Yes.
that's not a dumpster fire. It's just me bringing some ambiance into this. So, what do we got? We got a lot of people in here. It is 2:03, and we greatly appreciate everybody showing up on time. So let's go ahead and get this little neighborhood party started today.
So what are we talking about? What are we here to talk about?
Oh, I think it's what we've seen, how we've seen it, what's going on out there in the threat landscape today, and just what's been going on. I mean, there's a lot of it in the news. I mean, every time you turn around, you're hearing one more thing. I mean, I think a big thing that I've been hearing in the news, you know, Corey, I want to get your opinion on this, but, you know, we all know what's happening over in Ukraine with the war on the ground there, what's happening, but there has been a lot of talk about cyber escalation. What's going on, you know, what's coming next, and how this is going to turn in from a ground and air offensive to some sort of cyber warfare. Corey, what are you seeing? You seeing anything over the last month or two?
Well, I'm seeing the mainstream media telling us we all need to button down the hatches because our computers are just going to blow up at our desks. But I can tell you, business as usual. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing the same exact things that we saw before the war started back up. And it all ends up coming down to things that we've talked about, that I can say we've preached about, the same things over and over.
So nothing really different, huh? So the media got it wrong. Is that what you're trying to tell me? They've over sensationalized. They've told us the end of the world was coming, and they're trying to destroy my neighborhood. Not liking it, Corey. Not liking it at all.
You know, it'd be the first that they've done that. It'd be the first. It'd be the first.
Yeah, I'm not buying that either. What do you think, Dave? You feel like that's the first?
I'm feeling like I've heard this before. Same song, different verse.
Yeah.
Is that what they say?
Feels like it. Feels like it. So Corey, what do you got? What's been out there on the threat landscape? And, you know, we've got this up here, and I think, you know, anybody that's either seen us present in person or is kind of watch any of our webinars, you've probably seen us with our little sign here and some of the failures that are happening. So Corey, tell me what's going on, what's happened, you know, what have you seen recently that speaks to this?
Yep. So everybody should know this sign by us. We've shown this in many webinars before. If you've seen us on the road, we've shown this because again, it is the constant failures that are occurring over and over. So what I try to do with these tales from the crypt is I try to bring out at least 3 good examples of what we're consistently seeing. And one, I have to focus on that role-based access control, right? Controlling who has access to what. So a live example of this, I had to kind of protect the innocent or the guilty in this particular situation. So if you're on this webinar, you probably know it's you. I'm sorry. Where we had a particular incident, and this is kind of par for the course now, where our SOC was alerted of 50, or it was actually over 50, it was around 53, 54 quarantines of breach tools. Now we have a lot of automation in our SOC and our XDR platform where we look for certain tools that we know for sure the bad guys are using. If you didn't know this about the bad guys, as I said before, it's business as usual. They're using the same tools over and over again because they're effective tools and they're easy tools. And so one particular morning, we got an alert. I think this was around 4:00 in the morning, which is our happy hour, right? Everybody's happy hour is to drink, after work time frame. No. Our happy hour in the SOC is between that, I'll say 2:00 in the morning till 6:00 in the morning time frame, because that's when all the fun stuff happens. Let's go. We earn our paychecks. And so we had a particular incident where there was, like I said, over 50 breach tools detected, and they were all on a domain controller. Now, obviously, when a domain controller, we get alerts on those, I have a lot of concerns, right? Because that is the heart of your Active Directory environment, right, of your whole domain. And so looking at the path, it was under C users, and then it was the CEO of the company, and then their pictures directory. So this is a calling card for the bad guys. If you didn't know this, it makes my job easier. Bad guys love to use calling cards, right? So they'll use your pictures directory. They'll use the videos directory. Who the heck uses that anymore? They'll use the root of program, the root of users, right? They'll run scripts that have a bunch of, I feel cool because this letter is capitalized, this one's not, and I'm just going to alternate throughout the whole script. It's what they do. It makes them feel happy, makes them feel good. Awesome. Makes my job easier. I'll take it. And so in this particular situation, we called the partner and we went over what the heck is going on. Is that CEO? Let's start investigating the situation, because we've already mitigated the situation where we isolated it. It was obvious something was happening on this machine. Adversaries had direct access to it. They were trying to infect it by dropping every possible tool that's out there, and boom, that's our alarm. And so come to find out, the CEO of this company, now, no offense, Michael.
Here we go. Why do I feel like CEO is about to get picked on? What'd I do, Corey?
Michael is very technical. Michael should not have keys to the kingdom. I'm sorry.
He shouldn't.
Michael should not have keys to the kingdom.
Don't trust me.
And in most environments, the CEO should not have keys to the environment, especially this was a healthcare organization. So as you can imagine, this is a bigger issue. Being a healthcare organization falling under HIPAA, their security needs to be super tight, locked down. Unfortunately, the CEO was still part of the enterprise admin and schema admin roles. Again, if you've been on any of our conferences, right, or webinars, we consistently talk about this. I even wrote up this amazing article on what privileged accounts you should have in all of your environments. If you want that, send me an email. I will send it over. I'll send you the link. I outline everything of how you should set up control or set up the accounts within a domain. And unfortunately, people forget about this enterprise admin and schema admin, which gives them keys. And so
it's almost like the key to the city.
There it is. And so someone compromised his account. They were able to get access into the environment. They're on the domain controller trying everything they can to infect it. And that's where we had to come in.
So, even if a mistake like this was made, Corey, if they happen to have 2FA in place, it would have slowed them down. It would probably not let them in. Again, 2FA is not a silver bullet, but it is an incredible roadblock, a barrier to entry. So we've been on this webinar for about 10 minutes now, and Microsoft said at the RSA conference that 1.2 million accounts get compromised every day. So that number, thinking about that in the last 10 minutes, that means that while we've been on this webinar, that 8,333 accounts have been compromised in the last 10 minutes. That is a shocking number. I mean, that is just, again, we've got to do the right things and we've got to stop making it simple. you could make some of these mistakes if you do some of the other countermeasures in place that would absolutely help defend against.
Definitely. So let's see what else we've been seeing. Jupiter malware is all over the place. All right. What it is, it's a malware that is used for command and control. So they're going to have direct access to your computers, which means they can move laterally and control other machines. Its big purpose is also for an info stealer, steal credentials, steal everything within your browser, steal documents, steal whatever they can. I mean, they already have command and control, so they can pretty much do whatever they want. This is running very, very prevalent out there. A main reason, if you can see that very bottom there, and by the way, there's what I was talking about. You see how cool this person was when they did their PowerShell command, where they did a bunch of uppercase letters, a bunch of lowercase letters, and it just feels and looks cool. So they're using what's called XOR encryption. XOR encryption is not the most common encrypted PowerShell methods now. Most people use just a simple encoded PowerShell to get around to circumvent security solutions or circumvent knowledge of the IT staff, because if they see something that's encrypted, they're going to have absolutely no idea what it is and what it's doing. And so not a lot of solutions out there can detect XOR encryption. Now, our MDR does. And this is why we need layers. Just having one single product, just having an endpoint, a AV is not enough. If you've ever seen any of our flyers, we have a thing at the very top, a saying that says, antivirus is not enough. And that's true. You need a good EDR component that can monitor these types of behaviors, not just encoded PowerShell, but is there XOR encrypted PowerShell commands happening?
Corey, don't you think that most EDR platforms out there today can identify the XOR encoded PowerShell?
I don't think most. No, not most. Some can, not most.
But so let's say, and I don't know this to be true or not be true, but let's say SentinelOne can identify it. Because SentinelOne's a really powerful tool. It is a great technology, probably one of the better EDRs out there today. What does a partner do with that? How do they respond? What are their next steps if this is happening? And let's say they've got SentinelOne and they're responsible and they're doing the monitoring, and something like this takes place. What would they do?
Well, that's a good question, because what are they trained on? What do they know? I've seen a lot of environments, and I'll be honest, before I got to where I'm at now, when I was in the beginning of my IT career, I would see something like this and be like, I don't know, maybe it's, Microsoft update. It's running out of PowerShell. It's got to be Microsoft, right? Or again, if you don't know what it is, there's nothing you can do about it, right? Or that you're going to do about it. And too many times we see people rely on something like this to say, oh, the antivirus stopped it, or hey, my EDR solution stopped it, and just leave it at that. We're done. There's nothing else to do. But that's inaccurate. This is one small piece to the puzzle. And that's usually what happens with these alerts. Is one alert is just our detection. There's a lot more happening in the background that needs to be accounted for through an investigation. But first and foremost, once you've identified something is happening, you need to mitigate the situation. Immediately have that immediate response to be able to stop it in the tracks before it become a bigger issue.
Are you telling me that partners need to have a response plan?
Yes.
Really interesting. It's a grand idea. So obviously we're poking fun at some of this. We're trying to keep it a little lighthearted. But remember that, it isn't just about the technology. It isn't just about can you identify it? Can the technology tell you that something is happening? You've got to have the people in place. You've got to have the processes in place, and you have to have the technology. It is like having a one-legged stool. If you have a one-legged stool, and that one-legged stool is all balanced around your technology, I promise you are going to fall on your head. It is not going to support you for too long. In a short order, it's going to feel good. It's going to feel like you're whole and doing some great things. But how much better would it feel if you had the people and you had the process and you had the technology? That's a stool that's going to hold you up for a really long time. That stool's not going to let you down. That stool's going to take care of you, and it is going to give you and give your clients exactly what you need. And that's kind of the definition around having an MDR. Not just the technology, it's having the people. This particular instance and that other instance that was Corey was talking about, if they didn't have us or they didn't have another SOC, they didn't have somebody doing the monitoring, they didn't have the team of professionals, this would have just gone on. And who knows how long it would have gone on for and how much they would have been able to get away with and steal. So remember that when you're chasing that new piece of technology, make sure that you can operationalize it with the people and the processes behind it, because they are more important than just the technology themselves.
Well, let's on that point. Let me be devil's advocate here. So, common question I get: did Cylance stop this? My answer is no. It didn't stop it. So, what's the follow-up question? Why not? Why didn't Cylance stop this? Because it did what it was configured to do. PowerShell console is one of the most common vectors, one of the most common tools that adversaries will use to encrypt your environment, because it's become such a necessary tool in any Windows environment to be able to use it. So Cylance cannot and will not have the ability to identify one-line commands. It can't analyze that one-line command to say this is good, this is bad. And then you start having other solutions out there. Again, I'll be devil's advocate. Sentinel-1, as an example, claims that they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
However, when you outside of a demo, when you actually test this in the real world, it's not what it seems to be. They can't. This is why the human element is so important. This is also why you have to know the term acceptable risk and document what acceptable risks that you're doing in your internal environment and in your customer's environment. PowerShell console is an on or off solution as we provide it. You can either allow it or not allow it. If you are allowing it because you feel it's a necessary tool, right? It is mission critical. You have to have it. Awesome. But you have to have other controls in place that will help identify when something like this happens, so that we can immediately respond and take some form of action, mitigate, further investigate, and then perform some form of remediation to get it to where it's supposed to be.
So we had a couple questions, Corey. Had one from Jason on the one where we were talking about where the CEO had all of the hacking tools. Did we ever get root cause on that, on how they got in and dropped all of those tools?
No, we never received a follow-up from the partner.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, Jason, we don't always know the answer to that. We get the visibility that our partners want to give to us through the partnership and engagement that they take with us. And we don't mandate what they have to do. We advise, we guide, and we try to coach as much as we can. But we know that you have a business to run, and we want to fill in the gaps where you feel is necessary and it feels meaningful to you. So we can make the guesses, we can make the assumptions. My guess, and this is, typical, we see probably about 80 some odd percent of all incidents or events that take place come from some sort of phishing email, some sort of incident that happened in 365. And then because there's so many vulnerabilities that are out there, and unfortunately, we see a lot of them that are not being mitigated properly. And we'll get to that probably a little bit later and talk about just what we're seeing over there in the vulnerability space. But yeah, it's unfortunate. We don't know on this particular instance for sure. And some of that is a forensics, game. How far does somebody really want to take it to know exactly what they were doing, how long they had been doing it, and it comes with a cost. Let me see. I think I saw one from Josh Lieberman poke in there. Do you guys offer demos of MDR, the stool sample extended to your analogy? So yes, Josh, we do have MDR POCs that we run with our partners for sure. Most of our partners that have been with us for a long time, whether it is the tier 2 or tier 3 offering, it's mostly conversations through collaboration, explaining all of the additional power that you're getting. For instance, like Jupyter malware, that's something that comes from the MDR offering. These are particular rule sets that we're building into the EDR of things that we're looking for. Think about what we see and hear coming out of MITRE. those tactics, those techniques that are being used out there, some of more of those pervasive threats. That's what we're here talking about today. We're talking about these things that we're seeing in the wild and the things that are really happening. And so we build upon those. So yes, very long answer to your short question.
All right, so let's move into the final third example of what we're seeing, and this has been hitting us a lot the last couple of weeks. It's called WannaMine Crypto Miner. So interesting enough, we detect a lot of crypto miners, and even more interesting enough is some of our partners are intending to run these in their environments. I can tell you more than once where we contacted a partner saying, "Hey, there's a crypto miner running," and they're like, "Yeah, we're doing that. You can ignore that. You can exclude that. Go ahead."
Okay. We're doing it ourselves.
We're doing it on purpose. We're doing it ourselves.
Yeah, that's their neighborhood. They're crypto mining themselves.
It's a totally different neighborhood than I live in. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Crypto mining's a double-edged sword. There are those out there this is not malicious, right? It is eating up resources. It is eating up, bandwidth, right? And that's it for very small gains. But then there's other ones that are being used for command and control, right? That have worm, that can spread across multiple ways, that can get your information off of it. And who are you trusting? In this particular WannaMine crypto miner, this was not intentional. However, this comes in. If WannaMine sounds familiar to you, remember WannaCry, because that was intentionally called this because it's similar to WannaCry in the methods of how it gets into your environment. So let's bring back that term Eternal Blue. That vulnerability, the NSA created this tool to use as a offensive hacking tool, kept that vulnerability away from Microsoft. It was released out to the public. Adversaries were using it. Microsoft patched for it. There's tools out there to see if you are susceptible to Eternal Blue. You're supposed to be disabling SMB1 in your environment. Well, if you're not doing that, this can easily hit you. And you wonder, how did this get in?
So wait a second, Corey. You're telling me that we're talking about this crypto jacking worm, this WannaMine that is leveraging Eternal Blue. Eternal Blue is something that we've known about for a couple years, right?
Correct.
Like, haven't we had the fixes for this for a while now?
We have, but the question is, how do you know? How am I supposed to know amongst all my customers who is susceptible to this? Who's still open to this vulnerability? My RMM, Kaseya. I hit some people's trigger points. Kaseya is telling me that it's patching all of my machines. So how the heck do I know if any of my machines that are in my management are susceptible to Eternal Blue?
Ooh, pick me. I know how to do that. Oh, you are picking on me?
Yes, please.
Please. I would say you need a good vulnerability management technology. That's what I think. I think you need. What?
Doesn't my RMM tool do that for me?
No, RMM tools don't do vulnerability management. Now, there might be some out there that claim to do it, but I don't know that I've seen one that has those features like a Nessus, a Tenable, a Qualys, or a Rapid7. Those are true vulnerability management technologies. And oh, by the way, we happen to have one of those technologies. And that is one way. And so Jason, let me see. Tyler had a question. He says, will your team provide environment hardening guidelines during the implementation of MDR? No, Tyler, sorry, we don't do that. Now, we'll give you some best practices on things that we think you can do by taking away and implementing role-based access control, not allowing users to have the administrative rights because they shouldn't in their user accounts, making sure you don't have any open RDP, setting up two-factor. But these are all things that are really basic. Now, what we do have, though, is on our vulnerability management prioritization service, we do have some OS hardening guidelines that we can provide to you based on what we discover in the environment and things that you have going. So, for instance, in our executive leadership meeting yesterday, there was some things that Corey brought up that he had been testing on his machine to want to make sure that we didn't break anything. But now, based on some of that discovery information, we're going to go ahead and start shutting down certain aspects of the operating system, which then starts to mitigate and reduce the threat landscape as far as those vulnerabilities that can be exploited against us. And some of them are just stupid, like things that you would just think should be done. But unfortunately, Microsoft doesn't make it super easy, and there's just ways to do it.
What's the opposite? Microsoft makes it super easy.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Why do we still need autoplay? Who's popping in DVDs to do an installation, right? Why do we need autoplay to automatically come up and install things? Why do we need unsolicited remote assistance from Microsoft?
Oh, I don't want that at all.
Anybody?
Not me.
So there's easy things that are in, again, we like to use the term naked. Easy things that are in naked, Microsoft, Windows 10, any of the server versions that can easily be shut down to significantly shrink your attack surface.
Yep.
You just have to have the ability to know how to find them and then how to fix them.
So Jason had a comment in there. He says, if you don't ID how they got in, how do you know you've blocked the entry point? Well, again, Jason, we're here to support our partners. We're here to advise. We're here to guide. We're here to help. We're here to assist. We're here to really be a collaboration and extension of your organization. And if you ask us to help you with that, then we will absolutely do it. But again, there's so many entry points into an environment. And if a partner chooses to use us for just MDR, well, we're seeing the attack. We're seeing the attack and where it's trying to originate from and how it's trying to do some dastardly deed within the environment. But again, the partner may already know it. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. And it happens. We all get embarrassed. We get embarrassed by our mistakes. We get embarrassed by the things that we thought we did, whether it is, look, I don't need anybody raising their hands here, but I will bet you of all of the people that we have on the call today, somewhere along the way when COVID started and we put everybody home, somebody made a quick decision to open up RDP because they had to get people working from home right now. It just had to happen. And somebody probably forgot to shut it back down. Just like at some point in time, that CEO was probably moved into the schema admin and the enterprise admin group because maybe there was something he or she had to do, but they never got removed because they were just on to the next thing. So, there's this idea of cleaning up behind yourselves, and it's hard. I mean, we're so busy. We have so many things going on, and it's the mistakes that get us. I don't think there was any malicious intent here, but obviously it was a mistake. If that individual had been just a user, it would have certainly made it a lot harder. Corey, this one's good for you. Diana said, is there a way to whitelist PowerShell console commands that would come from the RMM and block all others?
No.
Yeah.
So anything that's within the PowerShell console, we cannot whitelist. So there's that. There's significant changes coming. They're actually here already, and even more changes are coming. We're having a lot of conversations with Cylance. BlackBerry Cylance. We're having a lot of conversations with them. That's something that we're going to talk about at the end here about next things that are coming up. But the initiating process, right, we can potentially account for, depending on the situation. My issue with RMM tools, and just look at it from my way. This is what they do. They want to run a PS1 file because that's what they run. But instead of telling the product or the machine, run this PS1 file that I have temporarily downloaded to your machine, they're telling it, open the PowerShell console, run the PS1 file.
So in other words, what you're trying to tell me is there's a little bit of dirty programming going on here.
There is.
They're taking the easy way out. And I get it. They're trying to jam 1,000 features that MSPs are asking for all the time to make their job easier. So instead of signing their work and putting certificates on it and actually signing it like a good developer should, and actually running the PS1 file instead of opening up PowerShell console, a lot of these problems could be solved. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
That's it. They're providing convenience at the mercy of security.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that that's changing. I fortunately have been lucky enough to sit in an advisory council board meeting physically face to face at Datto. Got to hear from their CISO, and I'm really impressed with some of their security first mentality, some of the ideas that they're bringing to the table. I also recently heard, and I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but it looks like Kaseya has hired a new CISO as well. Pretty strong pedigree with that individual. And so, I think what I'm starting to see, and really this is a testament to what's happening with the MSPs, you're demanding accountability, you're demanding responsibility. And responsibility is that big thing. It's not a finger pointing scenario. It's not you did it wrong, I did it right, or I did it wrong and you did it right. It's supposed to be a team effort. It's supposed to be this collaboration of understanding and acceptance that we're all working towards the same thing. And sometimes, just like in any family, one person has to be more responsible than somebody else, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, we have to do this together. And that's where some of these things are going to get better faster. So I think we've answered all the questions. I'm seeing an awful lot of chatter in the chat window. Yeah, a lot about Threat Locker. I will tell you, Corey and I, big Threat Locker fans, love the technology. I think Danny is an absolute brilliant individual. I really like what they're doing. Corey's got a long history of working in the application whitelisting space, has a love-hate relationship with it. We run Threat Locker internally. Part of that is just our internal process, our internal procedure, but we didn't put it on in substitute of something else. We didn't put it on because we thought that it was going to be the end all be all and we could get rid of other tools. We put it on as an additional layer. We thought, hey, we've done operating system hardening. We've done our MDR. We've done our EDR. We've done our role-based access control. We've done MFA. We've done outbound port filtering on our firewalls. We've done all of our policies and procedures, and we've gone through our NIST 800-171. So what else can we do? And we found Threat Locker, we loved it, and we've implemented, and it's pissed people off. Just be clear, nobody can install anything anymore. And so, you're seeing the emails coming in from people.
Change control, baby.
Change control. There it is. I mean, so these are things that are really good that you should be doing, but don't run into it just assuming that technology is going to fix all of your woes. It fixes certain woes, but it adds a whole different level of complexity that you have to be prepared for. And you have to have the people, you have to have the process, and you have to get the technology. People are probably tired of hearing me say that. I actually get tired of hearing me say it.
So there is no partnership at the moment between us. There are still conversations being had. All right. But at the moment, there is no act. We don't have an offering with Threat Locker.
No. We love the technology and think people should do it. But I think it's, like training for a race. If you've never run a marathon and you've never run a 5K, you probably don't start with running a marathon. So you got to build up to these things. So we think it's really important to make sure that you're doing things in a right order, because it will get rid of some of these problems that we're discussing today for sure. What else you got for us, Corey?
All right, so those are my 3 examples. And I probably should have flipped over it to her earlier. Just a reminder, right? When it comes to these attacks, how these are happening. And I also want to kind of touch base on it in the next slide, right? Adversaries are still performing low and slow. So they're not just out there just blasting your environment like they used to. Most attacks now perform that reconnaissance. And then if we can hit them at that exact spot, it saves a lot of us a lot of heartache. Mm-hmm. And that is where an EDR portion comes in. That is where monitoring behavior comes in. That is where having the trained experts, hello MDR, that is where having the trained experts to be able to analyze these behaviors, to call out the bad things, right? And ignore the things that are expected, right? You have to have that in your environment. I know everybody wants to feel that they can do this on their own, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you can. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You can't just dabble in security and be good or great at it. I'm sorry.
I mean, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, look, I can go home and refinish my hardwood floors. I can. Doesn't mean that I should. I'm going to think they might not look as good as if I pay somebody to do it that does it for a living. And while it might be okay for me, I'm gonna bet that somebody's gonna walk into my house and look at that and know that there was some knucklehead that hopefully I didn't pay for to do the job, and it just wasn't as professional as it probably could have been.
I mean, I had a call this week. It was the CEO and the CTO, and the CEO was like, you know what? My guy, he probably has the same level of training that you do. He's amazing what he does, but he just doesn't have time. He's just one person. I was like, thank you. Finally, someone's acknowledging it, right? You can't just leave it. I mean, I have this issue. Michael will tell you, I have an issue delegating certain things and letting things go because I want my hands on everything.
I thought you were going to talk about one of your other issues, but it's just that one we're talking about
just
right
that
now.
one. Just that
I
one.
mean, we don't have time for therapy right now, but we'll
No,
get to
no,
that
no,
later.
no. You said, run a marathon. I can barely run to my car. Get out of here.
Dude,
Right.
I've seen you run to the refrigerator and back.
There's that. Cake. All right. Anyway, so back on track, right? These things happen low and slow. You have to have the ability to identify them before they become a bigger issue. On that note, I'm still getting questions, and I wanted to create. So I've looked up a bunch of incident response life cycles, right? And they're very confusing. And I know they're very confusing, and they're getting even more confusing in our types of environment because who's responsible for what? Who is doing what? And so I wanted to come up with a good, easy presentation, something that you can speak to, right? That explains all this. The first thing you need to do is prepare and protect, right? There's a lot of controlling factors that are out there that you need to account for, right? A lot of what we do is endpoint. Whoever asks, well, how can you know if it, how they got in? How do you know the bigger picture if you don't know their attack vector of how they got into the environment in the first place? We can only do what we're authorized to do. I would love, more than anything, to spend all my time diving into a single attack, getting into someone's environment, looking at their firewall logs, even if we don't manage it, right? And finding and figuring out how this happened and defeating the enemy. That's not what we're authorized to do. So we have the ability to identify and alert on what you give us control and give us the ability to look at. All right. So first thing you need to do is prepare and protect your environments. Please listen to us. We know what we're doing. If you have a solution through us, we're giving you recommendations, not just because we feel like it, because it's been our tried and true solution, right? We've seen this across multiple MSPs. I know everybody feels unique, but not everybody is unique, right? We've seen a lot of these environments, and we know we have those processes in place to make sure that you are successful. There is no catch-all for anything. There's a possibility that something's going to happen. Usually you hear people say it's not if, it's when, and you have to have those trained experts, I'm saying it again, to be able to detect when some form of incident occurs. If you talk to me, the three categories you always hear me say is we will contact you if we see anything that looks abnormal, which just means the SOC analyst is looking at this and they have a weird, question mark above their head and they have a weird look on their face and they're just going to contact you. High possibility it's a false positive, right? It's expected action, but they're going to contact you. Suspicious or malicious activity. If we identify there's malicious activity, we will automatically mitigate the situation for you. We are going to start performing some responses to stop the bleed, right? Let's stop any further damage within the environment because an incident has already occurred. That is our first goal. You have authorized us, if you're on on the MDR offering as an example, to mitigate on your behalf and your customer's behalf. Then we're going to continue to investigate because I said this earlier, one alert is usually one small piece of the puzzle. We have to identify the full scope of what has happened. Is there other areas we need to account for? Are there other machines that are getting hit? Are we seeing this account logging into multiple other machines, right? We have to get so we can continue the mitigation process. Once we have the full investigation, once we have documented, we're also going to talk to you about potential remediation. Now, if you look at the pretty little icons on each of these little banners, I'm kind of showing you who does what, right? We do not do a fully managed offering. We do a co-managed offering when it comes to our MDR for the endpoint. So we're going to provide you everything we can, but it's on you to make sure the preparation, the protection's in place, and that remediation is performed because that's what we're authorized to do.
And Corey, that's a really good point. So I was having a chat with a partner last week. Said that he was speaking to another SOC as a service vendor, somebody else that was offering an MDR, and he said they were going to do all of the remediation. And I love when somebody uses the words all and everything. It lights up for me, because then I'm like, oh, here we go. Let me go ahead and shoot holes in this one. So I immediately said, cool. So what you're telling me is this other vendor is going to go ahead and patch your machine that had a vulnerability that got exploited that turned into the event? The answer was no, they're not going to do that. Okay, so they got into your Active Directory because you had OpenRDP for the firewall, you had no 2FA, and you didn't have any role-based access control. So they're going to mitigate the firewall, they're going to change your AD policies to put something better in place, and they're going to implement 2FA. Well, no, they're not going to do that. Like, so when we say it's co-managed, it is technically what you're getting from everyone else. What we're not doing is lying. We're not going to lead you astray. We're not going to inflate ourselves and chest bump ourselves and, peacock around here that we're going to do everything and we're going to remediate it all. And you're completely hands off. That is not a true statement. And honestly, I don't think any of you really want that. You want us to be a partner with you. You want us to be thick as thieves, in it hip deep, and we want you to go with you. We will lead you. We will guide you. We will advise you. But there are certain steps of responsibilities that you have to take in protecting your customers and preparing for the when and the if, and you have to perform your levels of remediation. So don't think about it like, oh my God, it's one more thing I have to do. It's not. We are really unburdening you with so much that you don't have to do. Let me see, I wanted to answer one question. I think it came from Ivan. Ivan, you asked, could we provide SOC services around what we're doing, and could we do it with SentinelOne? No, sir, we cannot. We like to be subject matter experts. We like to know what we're doing and how we're doing it. And part of any technology isn't just about the monitoring. There's this idea around trash in and trash out. If you do the configuration and we're not subject matter experts and we don't have the auditing ability to go in and look at it, then, oh, well, what is it that we can do? We're going to miss something because the technology didn't alert to something. So, well, I will say, is SentinelOne better than Cylance? In some aspects, probably. I think they do, supposedly, unconfirmed by us, they do script control better than Cylance does, is what we've heard. Don't know that for a fact, but if they do, okay, then that would make them better. But here's the deal. Was on a webinar yesterday, and for those of you that have ever heard or seen Matt Lee, they were on, and he was on with Tommy Vaughn from CTS, and they were talking about his hardware as a service offering, and it started talking about firewalls. And everybody's heard, and everybody knows, kind of where our love lies in firewalls and what our go-to-market strategy is. But my comment to everybody on it is like, look, all firewalls are good. What makes them great is the operator. So when you get a group of trained professionals that follow procedures, follow the best practices, they're doing everything the way they should, and they know that product inside and out, and they make fewer mistakes because it's a wash, rinse, and repeat. That's where you start to gain these certain levels where you can take, and I don't believe this, and I'm going to say it's not true, but let's, for argument's sake, SentinelOne is better than Cylance. Great. You go ahead and do what you got to do with SentinelOne with no SOC, no monitoring, no response, no 2 a.m. on a Tuesday help, and let me show you what we can do with Cylance, and I'm going to win every single time because we've configured it better, we're monitoring it harder, and we're doing things that are going to take it from a good product to a great product because the operators behind it are exceptional.
And I've heard that. And I've heard I just wish you guys would just do SentinelOne, or your competitors like Arctic Wolf will look at SentinelOne and Cylance. Okay, cool. I have to be able to provide you the same deliverables. I can't just say, oh, we're just going to do everything now. We're going to do WebRoot, Bitdefender, SentinelOne, Carbon Black. We'll just ingest everything. Can we ingest it? Yes.
Yes, we can.
Our XDR platform will ingest those and parse those. And, a lot of them will look, I can set up the same type of alerts, right? Because they're going to be around the same thing, but I cannot provide you the same deliverables. I have to hire a brand new support team because we're not just providing you monitoring, we're providing you support for these products. I have to train my SOC analysts, right? I need access into these portals. I have to train everybody to log in, to be able to I don't want to just look at logs. I want to look at the bigger picture of things. I'm not just going to rely on one log to tell me what's going on, right? A syslog is not going to provide me everything. That's how we treat Cylance. We actually log into the portals. We look through things. We know the ins and outs, the backwards, the forwards. We know everything within the Cylance portal, within that, how it functions to make us successful. And so that's why we want to provide you the exact same deliverables. So that's why we're not just going to bow down because this company will do X, Y, and Z. We're going to do what we're great at and what people come to us for.
And it goes right back to what we said earlier. It's about the people, the process, and the technology. And when you hear this, technology does come last. So love SentinelOne, love what they're doing, but I think what we offer and how we execute is far better than what's going to happen with just SentinelOne. Now, if you had SentinelOne and you were getting Highwire and they were providing you the same tier 1 and tier 2 support and configuration assistance and doing all of the SOC services, absolutely. Now it's a fight. Now it's a heavyweight championship. And now we have a fair fight on our hands. But if you're getting it with no disrespect from PAX 8, you've bought a technology. Where are your people? Where are your processes? And what do you know in the middle of the night that wakes you up to tell you that there's an actual problem? So Corey, I think we got about 15 minutes left. I want to make sure that we keep on going, seeing some Sonic Wall discussion out there. I completely agree with Josh Lieberman. He's committed to the Sonic Wall brand. They've got 14 certifications across, 22 years of experience. Doesn't make Sonic Wall better than Fortinet, but it does make Josh's organization better at what they're delivering because they are committed to an idea of technology and they've operationalized it in a educated manner. Oh boy, here we go. What's next?
Here's what we let Dave talk.
Come on, Dave.
Oh no, here we go.
Everybody, Mr. Dave Poole.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
There it is. There it is.
I have too much fun.
Yes, indeed. There goes the Zoom call. Awesome. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff coming up. Wow, Michael, you'll be speaking at Channel Program and this Friday. That guy right there. So excited about that.
That one's a really cool one. For those of you that have not heard about the Channel Program, so it's an amazing idea where all of the MSPs coming in anonymous. I think there's 6 or 7 vendor manufacturer type organizations, and none of us have overlapped one another. So, we'll be talking about our SOC as a service and MDR and the things that we do, but there'll be nobody else talking about it. And until you raise your hand and volunteer to talk with one of the vendors because you like them, you stay anonymous. So I think it's a really cool idea where you're not just going to get spammed and called to death by somebody because you've joined a webinar and, that SDR just knows you want to do business with them because you attended that webinar.
I think that'll be good. That's what time is that? 11
starts at 11 o'clock Eastern.
There you go.
And I am number 2 on the agenda.
Indeed. And after that, you'll be in the breakout room answering some questions firsthand. So that'll be exciting too.
Come on, let's play Stump the Chump. Come see me.
Right on. So that'll close out April for us, and then we go into May. You want to hit a little bit on what we're going to talk about next month in that webinar?
You know what? So unfortunately, we do a terrible job of selling ourselves. We hear this quite often that a partner that has done MDR with us, or they do Avanon with us, or they do the Sonic Wall with us, or they do SOC services with us, comes like, hey, do you guys do this or you do that? And it's awful because we do a really bad job of being our own hype man. Now, Corey is an amazing hype man. Just ask him, he'll tell you. So next month's webinar, what we're going to do is we're going to try to cover the stack. We're going to try to cover all of the things that we're doing. We're not going to go into the weeds about it, but we're going to give a better high-level view of just what Solutions Granted does, not necessarily focusing on the how and the what we do, but really focusing on the why we do it and how it can help you and align with where you're looking. So that's what we're planning on covering next month.
Awesome. And if you're out there taking notes, that's going to be May 18th and we'll have a couple emails, and it'll of course be on our LinkedIn page. So if you're not following us on LinkedIn, make sure you do. You'll get all those updates. So get that. And then May, if I'm not mistaken, May 10th and 11th, we'll be in Orlando at the Sales Revolution conference. If you're in Florida, ping me directly. I've got some promo codes for that. It is a paid event, so you might want a promo code for that one, but it's going to be a great way to invest in your business. If you want to go get some great sales information, want to grow your business, want to invest in sales, that's going to be a very, very good, very detailed conference
And I
centered
think
around sales.
we've got some passes that we can give out, or some highly discounted to help you get there. So if you'd like to go, and I was talking to Jennifer Bleem, who is the owner of MSP Sales Revolution, and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, unfortunately from my point of view, but fortunately from the MSP point of view, this is like the MDR who's who throwdown. I mean, Blackpoint Cyber is going to be there. We're going to be there. Huntress is going to be there. And I also believe Rob Bowles with Blockworks is going to be there. So look, for all of you that are still here with us, look, try to make it to this event. Let us help you get there. If there's some financial constraints that you getting there, let's see what we can do to help you. But look, if you haven't committed to MDR, holy crap. If you can't find it with those powerhouses that are going to be there, sorry, you're just not going to find it. That is my opinion, for what it's worth.
Hey, Keith, I'll get that to you. But yeah, that's gonna be a good one. But like Michael said, we do have some promo codes. I think the one we have covers like 894 of the $895. So $1 is better than 895.
$1.
It's a pretty good promo code we have for Oh, Luke dropped the link.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks, Luke. I appreciate that. I think Luke is a fan of Jennifer as well, if I'm not mistaken. Jennifer is just a really cool individual, and just, man, you need help with, sales and cyber, and she's just so cool. Really love Jennifer.
Then the following week, I will be on the road, starting in Chicago on the 16th. So if anybody's familiar with the MSP initiative, so I'm going to throw a few cities out there. And if you're in that area, let me know. I'll get you a link to the specific area, but it's going to be a road show from the 16th through the 20th in Chicago, Illinois, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Indianapolis, Indiana, Lexington, Kentucky, and then finally in Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm going to be wiped out at the end of that week. So
give me some bourbon.
Looking forward to it.
Kentucky.
Yeah, dude, Dave, I'm going to give you a bourbon order while you're in Kentucky, please. And if you would do me a favor, like if you could Nancy Kerrigan, the Nashville Predators, that'd be fantastic. Like them out of the playoffs and out of my way. So we'll talk about that later.
It's like, where are you going with the Nancy Kerrigan reference? It's like,
and then what we
Michael, don't want me back to work.
Yeah. And then we've got ASCII Boston, which is Corey and I. Corey and I are going to be up in Boston. So looking forward to seeing everybody up there. Yeah, good old Boston. Get some clam chowder.
So we've got a busy May, looking forward to it. And then June, we got the RSA conference. Like Corey, you're going to be there.
Corey's going to be there. Michael. I'm going to be there. Will Alexander, who is our VP of Security Operations, is going to be there. So for anybody that's going to RSA or happens to be in that San Fran area, if you'd like to meet with us, if you'd like to chat with us, we're not a vendor, we're not sponsoring, just there as attendees, going there for a couple of days worth of meetings. So love to see you guys, gals, if you're going to be there. And then the following week, Corey, oh no, not Corey. It's Dave, right, Carly, and myself. Carly, for all of you that have not met Carly, the new channel account manager that we've got on board, not new anymore, she's been here for a couple months, but she is making her initial journey debut into the ASCII world at Long Beach.
People are going to be sad.
Yeah,
They don't see me.
it's all right, Corey. I'll cry in my pillow later.
All right. I got some offering, some more news coming out on the Cylance side. We have MFA. That is, we're already seeing changes. I know people probably did a deep exhale because we've been talking about this for a while. MFA is coming. We've already modified everybody's tenants in preparation for this. We will have what's called a preview coming out first. So you'll see what this looks like before it is fully fledged required. So that is coming very, very soon. You'll see a blast email from us about that. Plus, I think we got something else happening in the MFA world.
Yeah, we do. So if Duo and Okta had a baby, and it was a really pretty baby, how
Pretty
cool
baby.
of a technology? What?
Pretty baby.
Pretty baby, because nobody likes an ugly baby. But if Duo and Octo had a baby, how pretty of a baby would that be to have that type of technology in your stack? Well, it's something that we've been working on with a company called Evo. We're super close to launching it with them and having it ready. Really excited. That gives you the combination of having a fantastic two-factor and having your identity, that IAM that you need. And that's coming soon. What's really exciting is, let's just think that maybe they have a second kid, and that second kid is going to look like a Duo, Okta, and LastPass baby. Now we're talking about a gorgeous baby, not just a pretty baby.
Oh,
So we're talking
gorgeous
about
baby.
gorgeous, Corey. Gorgeous. We're talking about having the fact that there it is.
Sorry. Gorgeous
Thank
baby.
you, sir. We're talking about having the ability for password management, two-factor, and identity. This is amazing. Think and hoping that we've got that by the end of the year. Really excited about this offering. Think it's going to be a really needed thing that we've heard that's going on with our partners, with who. Carrie said, with who? Come on, Carrie. I said it once. Don't make me keep saying it again. It's Evo. Evo, 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 EVO. No, I got you, sir. Just playing around. Carrie, shoot me an email. We'll chat some more. We'll get you up to date on it. All right, what else we got?
Cylance Tier 2 end of life. Very important. If you are taking advantage of our very old offering called Cylance Tier 2, we are end of lifing it at the end of the year. So you're going to be receiving calls either from me or from someone else on our team to discuss this. What worked 6 years ago does not work today. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't.
We are tired of seeing the house on fire and we can't do anything about it. We are firefighters, right? I don't want to ask you permission to put the fire out. So we have made a business decision to end of life our tier 2 offering, which means you would have to either upgrade or I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we'll have, it's a long runway. We're not looking for it to break anybody's business model. We're not looking for anybody to run away from us. We're going to make this financially easy on you, but we know what we're seeing. We know that our partners are suffering. We're going to make this as easy of a transition as we can. Josh, thank you for asking or answering the one question for me. There was a question about, I have a need for US-based organization. We are only a US-based organization. It is my employees, my stock, never outsourced, never overseas. It is who we are, and it is who we will always be. We are never going to be doing any of that. So thank you for answering that. I appreciate that.
All right, last bullet point, vulnerability management upgrades. So our vulnerability management offering, we are now going to start adding very soon. You will see agent list based scanning. So what that means, yeah. So what that means is, as long as something is TCP/IP visible from the outside or from the inside, we can analyze it to look for vulnerabilities. This includes web applications. So you'll see more from us coming on that one as well.
Corey, we couldn't get out of this thing without somebody doing it. Josh Lieberman, of course it was you, and thanks for not selling to Kaseya. And then Jason's jumping on the bandwagon, telling him to preach on. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. Definitely not on that path of acquisition anytime soon. Not in my, nope, not something I'm really thinking about at the moment. And one thing that Corey was talking about is the vulnerability management. And here's something that we're working on today. We're not ready. We're just starting on this, but what we've heard from you and what we've heard from our partners is, hey, we love the fact that you've made it easy, that you're not just giving us this 300-page report that we have to figure out, that we have to then internalize and do everything with. But we love the fact that you're doing all of this. But what we'd really like is, can you please just take care of the problem? Can you remediate it? Can you patch the machine? Can you take it from the discovery to the remediation to telling us that it's all taken care of? So it's just one less thing we have to do. We've heard you. We're there. We're looking into it. We think we have a path forward to success that we're really excited about. And we will have more to come in the next coming months on this one. Really excited about that opportunity as well. If you do sell, just make sure it isn't Kaseya or ConnectWise. Oh, now there's 2 to the list.
Oh boy.
Noted.
Yeah. I think that's it.
That is it. And you know what? Really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. I know that we've gone a minute over. Thank you so much. If you want more information, scan the QR code. And thank you for visiting us in our neighborhood today. I guess that's it for me. I'm heading home from here. Bye, everybody.